The rapid progress of blockchain technology is showing no signs of slowing down. In the past few decades, many things that seemed impossible have turned out to be false, such as high transaction fees, double spending, net fraud, retrieving lost data, etc. But now all this can be avoided with the help of blockchain technology. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Analytics Insight podcast, where we talk about the ever evolving technology space. And I'm your host, Priya Dialani. Now, as blockchain continues to grow and become more user friendly, the onus is on you to learn this evolving technology in order to prepare yourself for the future and ensure a seamless adoption. Now, we have robust companies in this space that can aid your organization towards a seamless adoption. And today with us, we have Mr. Siddharth Ugrankar, founder and CEO of Kila.io, a blockchain as a service platform. Hi, Siddharth, how are you doing?
I'm well, Priya. Nice to meet you.
Likewise, we are very glad that you're here on a podcast today. We'll be talking more about blockchain and its integration and how it can help organizations across industries grow. So, like before we start understanding everything about it, can you tell us more about your company and its specialization?
Yeah, sure. So Kila.io is, a software company. We've always been, an enterprise software platform development company. Our focus has always been to develop, uh, you know, emerging technology for enterprises, where the impact of that technology is a lot on enterprises. So, prior to blockchain, we did a lot of work in the data analytics space for over 10 years. And then once we exited that business, we decided to focus on something that is more emerging. When we decided to go towards enterprise blockchain, the conversation of blockchain was dominated by cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, especially. And even though it's still, dominated by these topics, if everybody would know that Bitcoin is now crossing some pretty unrealistic numbers as far as the value is concerned, but the use cases beyond crypto are now starting to flourish amongst enterprises. So we thought that the one gap that was in the enterprise space was a blockchain platform that was not available for enterprises to use without having to go on a public platform. So to kind of make you understand that a little more, all the blockchain offerings for enterprises right now are publicly hosted blockchains such as Ethereum, Solana, Polygon, and so on. What we have done is we have integrated and built in-house offering of blockchain on open source platform called Hyperledger Fabric, and we've designed it as a subscription-based platform. Our customers can visit our site killer.io and sign up within seconds, set up their own blockchain network, dedicated blockchain network within minutes, and begin integrating their block use cases that involve blockchain and blockchain technology.
Right. I think you very well said that blockchain is more just its usage is more beyond cryptocurrency that way. And I feel that the company represents significant stride toward reshaping the landscape of enterprise blockchain services. If we can say it is more of a testament to innovation, security, and continuous pursuit of excellence in dynamic world of blockchain technology. But now, since we have been talking about the company, we would also like to know about your role and contribution towards the company. So, can you highlight those aspects as well?
Yeah, sure. So I am CEO and founder. I have a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering that I got from the University of Portland in Oregon. I've always been, a system architecture and a system design guy. Someone who designs how a particular platform should work and how it can be offered as a service to enterprises. Sales is a very, very big component of my roles and responsibilities. But being a very small company, I am covering a lot of avenues beyond sales. So I'm involved in product development, in strategy development within the company, and I'm also focusing on, keeping an eye on other emerging technologies that could play a very important role in what we are doing.
Right. Thank you for sharing this your journey and what all aspects that you have been handling about the company. Trends emerging during the pandemic could have a significant impact on the user adoption of blockchain, as I feel. because I think the outbreak kind of accentuated the pre-existing concerns about how to handle data and track providence across partners in the value chain. And also, social distancing and the virtualization of work created new challenges in collecting, managing, and sharing data. So we all know that blockchain isn't like a very new technology. It isn't the buzzword nowadays. We have been come across use cases that have some sort of blockchain integration in it. So I wanted to understand what are your views on the current adoption rates around the blockchain and tokenization.
Right. That's a great question, Priya. So, one of our, biggest, once we developed our platform, we realized that blockchain is not going to be a technology that's going to be adopted fast. And the reason was because it's a really complicated technology. And then it provides a very pertinent questions to the enterprise saying that, why do I need it? So what we've done is we have pre-designed workflows, for our customers, which are designed by two solutions, privacy and Go Trust. And the reason why we've done that is so that we can accelerate blockchain adoption amongst enterprises. The way we do that is we've taken out the complexity of what is needed to set up a blockchain network. So when I say the complexity, I mean that let's take case in point. There's a company that wants to set up some kind of survey system amongst their customers, right? Let's say they're doing surveys for their corporate customers. And the objectives of this survey is to ensure that every response that is being recorded in the survey is validated and it is beyond any kind of modification or mutability when it comes to that. Now if that company wants to do it, blockchain becomes a very easy choice of technology to use because of its inherent ability to make data immutable within its storage network. By immutability, I mean that once the information is recorded inside the network, it's impossible to change that information. So it is sacrosanct when it comes to that kind of information. So if the company wants to do that without pre-designed workflows, without blockchain as a service, the company has to invest a lot of time and effort in developing this use case for their organization, and that itself is a deterrent amongst these corporate organizations, right? So keeping that in mind, what we've done is we've taken that complexity out first, and I'll describe this in two phases. So the first aspect of complexity that we have removed is the setup of the blockchain network. So we have pre-designed workflows based on our experience on how a blockchain network should be set up. And so what our platform does is it allows the customer to select a simple form which they can, which is human readable, and they say, okay, where do you want to store your information, and how many copies of this information you want. And once they answer these few questions, they can set up the system will automatically set up a dedicated blockchain network for them. And the second most important thing, what we've done is we've created an end-to-end workflow for real-world asset tokenization, and that is under privacy and Go Trust. The way these solutions work is that you can consider the asset, which is essentially the survey company that we are talking about. So the asset in this case would be that particular survey form that was answered by that particular user. So using tokenization, using our workflow, that company can actually onboard these surveys within seconds by simply integrating a very simple JSON script into the online survey form that they have provided for their customer. Once their application calls our JSON API, they're able to write these tokens within seconds into the blockchain network. And privacy is driven by this wallet application. So if customers need to read this, survey and analyze the results, there's a wallet application that they can download from the App Store and the Android Play Store. And the wallet application gives them access into the world of blockchain. So this workflow has actually made it really simple for organizations to, not worry about the heavy lifting when it comes to setting up a blockchain and implementing real world use cases that they understand, in as little time and as seamless as possible.
Very well said, Siddharth. Even I believe that when we have like a strategized workflow, it becomes easier for any particular user to adopt blockchain or any of the emerging technologies that we speak about. Also, I feel that one major advantage of blockchain is the level of security it can provide. This also means that blockchains can protect and secure sensitive data from online transactions. Now, for anyone looking for a speedy and convenient transaction, blockchain technology offers this. And in fact, it can take only a few minutes, whereas the other transaction method can take several days to complete. Now, there is no third party interference also from financial institutions or government organization, which can be a significant advantage in terms of adopting blockchain. Having said that, can you share some of the real world use cases of your solution and also the success metrics?
Yeah, sure. So the example that you provided just now, Priya, that's in the DeFi space. So in the DeFi space, blockchain can play an incredible role from a cross-border settlement standpoint, right? And that's because the network itself is one single entity that is able to transfer and settle money between two entities who are participating within that network. So that's a massive point, and it's going to be a huge disruptor when it comes to financial transactions, especially Swift, right? And I think just yesterday I was reading an article, where Swift is now finally investing in an interoperability network, which will allow them to do this kind of settlement while collecting much lesser transaction fees between two entities across different countries. As far as Kila is concerned, we haven't ventured into the DeFi spaces yet, and that's primarily because of the regulatory, ambience in India. It's not very conducive for blockchain-based solutions. However, the government has initiated some activities around this in Gift City, which is like a special economic zone that has been set up in Gujarat. And so we are looking at options in which we can probably play a role in that. The areas, our success metrics, and the areas that we are focusing on at the moment is to provide privacy and provenance to the user on their data. So to give you an example, the three most useful use cases that have come up for us are in three verticals. One is in the healthcare and the point of care services, such as diagnostic medicine and diagnostic pathology testing. In luxury goods, where you want to provide authenticity details of a particular luxury item. And finally, universities, where and I know anybody who studied in India, it's a complete nightmare to go back to your university and and request your old transcripts, where you have to provide as a background check. So the solution that we are proposing is allowing the universities to tokenize these particular transcripts and these grade certificates, which will then exist as an NFT token for perpetuity for that student. And then the custodian of that information becomes the student itself, and that's the provenance that I spoke about when I started mentioning this. So so our success metrics is definitely going to be the adoption rate, because we strongly believe at Killa that our that blockchain is going to form the anchor for all data provenance requirements across the world, and the biggest recipient of that data provenance is going to be AI. And that debate is already going on across the world in all the different courts that you can hear of. The success metrics for us is going to be the adoption rate, and we have identified these three verticals for us where we are tokenizing these real world assets to meet these requirements.
Well, thank you for sharing your insights on how you've been implementing real world use cases in terms of adopting or aiding organizations to adopt blockchain. Also, like you referred about using artificial intelligence. So, like before starting with the podcast, I happened to know more about Kila.io, and I came across, or I think if I'm not wrong, you might be also focusing on leveraging certain data management solutions, or like you mentioned about leveraging the power of artificial intelligence or data science, as it can help businesses across industries discover new insights, and that's how you can probably even craft tailored growth strategies as well for them. Now, while blockchain definitely holds immense potential in terms of enhancing data privacy and overall business operations, I think it is very critical to recognize the importance of implementing blockchain-based solutions like you have been dealing into. Having said that, what makes Kila different, and are there any key partnerships that drive innovation at Kila?
Yeah, so uh, a lot of people ask me what makes Killa different, right? And it takes me back to a time when the world was getting exposed to AWS, right? So anybody who's familiar with AWS and the kind of impact infrastructure as a service has provided for the world, it kind of brings me to that statement, right? So what we want to, for the first differentiator is our vision and our goal. Kila, we want to become the ubiquitous cloud for blockchain technology, for private enterprise work, where the customer, like enterprises, won't think twice before setting up their own dedicated blockchain network for themselves, without having to rely on a public network, which is driven by random individuals providing consensus. So all use cases don't fit that paradigm. The other thing is, it's a thought process. So we believe that every asset in this world can be tokenized. Companies with large data distribution strategies. By data distribution, I mean, let's take a point of care services company like, say, a Metropolis. They conduct approximately 60 million tests a year. This is the data of 2023. Uh, you know, can you imagine how difficult it must be to distribute this data and then also provide security of this information? So blockchain offers an incredible opportunity to make data distribution secure and seamless for this company. So our greatest differentiator is our thought process of how we are trying to, envision uh, a workflow which allows companies in order to do that. And we are doing this well ahead of the curve at the moment, right? So because a lot of our conversations around this space, are still giving, we are on the precipice of the wow factor, right? So that's what we believe. So our customers, when they hear about what our vision is and how we've designed our vision, they're almost there to say wow until they actually see it working. So a small anecdote, I'll just share with you was, a couple of weeks back, I attended a conference, and the only thing I did over there was take selfies with my friends in this networking event, and I kept tokenizing it and showing it to them. It was quite a very gimmicky solution, but it highlighted of how easy it was to create a secure image on a blockchain, right, using Killa. And I feel becoming the ubiquitous cloud is something that we'll start realizing in maybe 5 or 6 years. But until then, we will become the catalyst for tokenization adoption, which will drive blockchain adoption eventually.
Definitely, I think that was very interesting and an inclusive way of how you can promote your company and help people understand what Kila is exactly and how it can make a difference, irrespective of any industry you belong to. Now, moving ahead, I think in the earlier questions, I focused on um, the level of security that blockchain provides is quite significant. But on the other hand, we understand that like data privacy and data security both are different concepts, but somehow they have been used interchangeably since a quite long time. Now, while blockchain is renowned for its robustness and transparency, I think there are also features that can pose unique challenges in terms of data privacy and also complying with the upcoming and with the introduction of the new data security regulations and standards that we have. So I wanted to understand what are the concerns in terms of data privacy when we talk about blockchain and tokenization, and how Kila ensures data protection and regulatory compliance for its clients as well.
Yeah, so whenever people talk about data privacy and data security, right? So let's talk about data privacy. Uh, Typically, when you refer to data privacy, it points you to the where the data that you're actually talking about belongs to someone, and this data is valuable to someone. So case in point, Facebook, right? A lot of the information that people put up on Facebook is not really valuable to them, which is why when the Cambridge Analytica scam happened a few years ago with regards to to where they were selling, people's information in for election purposes, nobody really cared much, right? The regulatory authorities cared because the impact of something like that is far-reaching. However, nobody really cares about, if your Facebook data is getting used or not, right? That's the primary, especially amongst the millennials. Um, but the whole premise behind data privacy is, why was my data used? So it's amazing how you asked me this question, because I've been reading a lot about, DigiYatra, right? And how DigiYatra is now collecting people's facial recognition and fingerprints, maybe, I don't know, but facial recognition for sure, with the hope of providing them seamless entry into the airport. And the most important point over there is the custodianship of that data, and that is the biggest challenge, right? And so blockchain actually provides an opportunity for an enterprise to provide that custodianship to the owner of that data, and that's where the privacy is also resolved. So there is a very interesting project in the blockchain space called the SSI project, which is the self-sovereign identity project. And I've come across some very innovative use cases around that, where a person's identity is centered around all the information and data this particular individual generates. And the whole concept behind this, and this was one of the drivers of why we decided to do what to do, is that if there is a company that wants to benefit of that information, then they need to reach out to that individual to consent for that to use that information. And this can be done only using the blockchain. If you try and build a Web 2 system, which is where you host the information and then in some invariable way you provide custodianship to the user, you're not actually providing custodianship to the user, because that is a centralized federated system that is still taking your consent to provide it to someone, right? And so people don't do it. So Google has your information. Have you consented to Google that they can basically use your information and then make money off of it? And that's the big debate going on, especially in Europe, right? In markets of Europe, where Google and even Apple, for example, is getting slammed because they're violating privacy and provenance issues when it comes to user data. So blockchain provides this amazing opportunity because it's decentralized, right? So it is not linked to anyone except the user. So if I create let's say, a small identity for Priya Dialani on a blockchain, so what happens is that Priya Dialani is the only one that can control what happens with that information. And that's the ideal scenario of a blockchain. Sadly, DigiYatra is not utilizing it in the way that it should, because they are eventually, the custodians of that information. And instead of providing that custodianship to the end user, they are actually, using it. And do you know if they can share that information to the government? So how many times did Priya visit the airport? What flight did she take? Right? They need to consent with you every time that information is shared with someone. And sadly, in India, with this whole DigiLocker nonsense that's going on, right, where the government is centralizing everything into this one single app, I think it's a huge privacy issue, right? Because you're providing all this information inside DigiLocker, where the custodian is that company of DigiLocker, who is then providing that information to the government, and hence, that's a big challenge for companies. And so I'm not a big fan of DigiLocker. I don't use it as much. I had to use it. Everybody started using it during COVID, right? But I'm now shying away from it because I don't want to share any of that information. So blockchain is definitely the technology that will provide that control of that information for that particular owner of that information. I hope I answered your question,
Very
Priya.
well. Yes, it does. And I think you shared some of the more very important and interesting facts as to how blockchain is different, and in terms of controlling the data privacy and ensuring that there's a controlling the flow of data across a respective channel, and ensuring that The challenge is, like you said, if you're maintaining like a centralized data repository, it becomes very difficult to ensure data privacy. But again, one of the challenges that I wanted to discuss about blockchain, or for that matter, cryptography, is the use of public and private keys. And I've heard that there have been a lot of problems with private keys. For example, if a user loses the private key, they face numerous challenges, making it one of the disadvantages of blockchain. Also, another thing would be scalability restrictions, because as a number of transactions per node is limited. Now, because of this, I think it can take several hours to complete multiple transactions and other tasks as well.
Yeah. So, so I think what you're referring
Yes,
to,
I can. Yeah,
yeah. So I think what you're referring to is the blockchain trilemma, right? There is a concept that is known as the
yeah,
blockchain
yeah.
trilemma. And where if
Right,
you go for speed, you sacrifice consensus. If you go for consensus, you sacrifice
right,
provenance, and so
right.
on and so
Yeah,
forth, right? This is like a
yes,
an issue. But again, it's a growing space, and I think it's going to take time for people to understand, because people are still trying to fit blockchain into specific use cases. So
mm,
the Bitcoin is truly the only it's the only decentralized network that is available today, where
right,
anybody can participate. It's a proof of work, and and then they get to basically participate in consensus. But Ethereum and Solana, and there's a new jumbo chain which is coming up, which is an India mainnet. These guys are focusing more on transaction speeds, right? So, and this is again, it's driven by the need for enterprises to use blockchain. But when you go for speed, you have to sacrifice consensus. You have to sacrifice the democratic way of the blockchain. So I think it's going to take time, for blockchain to figure out. And I don't think there's going to be one single version of the blockchain. So to give you an example, in the database realm, you have relational databases, such as Microsoft and MySQL, and so on. And then you got, flat file based databases, which were, more, focused towards, transaction speeds for organizations. And then you had, streaming database platforms, which that had only a single purpose while doing it. So, which was analyzing the data as it streamed. So, each of these flavors of the databases were designed to meet a particular purpose. But in this case, and I think that's what we're going to see in blockchain as well, where enterprises and individuals will have that option to to choose what their use case is. If it requires more democracy, where the consensus matters the most, or if they want to go with transaction speeds, and if speed matters the most, or data integrity is what basically matters the most, right? So these are I think this is something that we'll see in the evolution of blockchain, because at the end of the day, the blockchain is nothing but a distributed database, right? Its whole sole purpose is to store information and have it and provide it on a more kind of credible basis. Coming back to your thing about the challenges of the private keys, this is not a blockchain issue. This has been a issue in tech for a while. SSL cryptography used the same technology. Excuse me. Right. So it's been a challenge, but it is the last bastion of security that is provided, because if you lose your private key, I mean, if you lose the key to your house, you have to change the lock, right? So there's no other way to do it. You can't magically solve that problem. So it's not a blockchain issue. I think it's a cryptography issue, and blockchain relies on cryptography. And I think that cryptography itself is a branch which is also evolving. I think AI is going to play a massive role in cryptography, and so people have dynamically changing keys, which they've automated into into their applications, so that to avoid an impact from someone who loses their private key. And yeah, so I think it's a great challenge, as long as it protects the users' the interests.
Right, and I think I agree with you because artificial intelligence will definitely play a very important role in terms of mitigating the challenges associated with blockchain as well as cryptography and ensure that we have more seamless adoption of blockchain-based solutions. Now, before we end our podcast, one last question for you would be: how do you think would be the future of tokenization of blockchain? And if you have any future plans or Kila.io has a future plans, and if you would like to share with our listeners.
Yes, see, we are not looking, to be very honest, we are not looking beyond 2 years at the moment, as far as blockchain is concerned, and that's primarily because our focus is on the adoption of blockchain. So, the conversations that we are having with people at the moment, to give you a insight into that, when we started, discussing blockchain with people in August of 23, people were like, "ये blockchain क्या है? What is this blockchain? And are you selling cryptocurrency to me?" Fast forward to about 7 months, and now the conversations are, I think I know what tokenization is, and I think it can apply to my business, but I don't know how it will benefit my business. So our focus is right now to you know bring out use cases that we can discuss on this amazing podcast that you guys organize, where we can get this information out to people, of why we are doing what we are doing. At the end of the day, the customers don't really care whether you're tokenizing or you're not tokenizing, right? And when I say a customer, I mean, if you go and deposit your blood in a pathology lab for a CBC, right, a complete blood count, it doesn't matter to you if the information, the report that you receive is tokenized or not. But the underlying impact of that mechanism to deliver that report to you in the form of a NFT token has far-reaching consequences, right? It has, it is protecting your data. It is keeping you safe. That information is not getting out to anyone. So when you hit critical mass in something like this, then people start realizing that, hey, why isn't my report tokenized? Why are you sending it to me as a PDF on WhatsApp? This is what the vision we see will start unfolding, maybe 2 years from now. As far as our future plans are concerned, from a business standpoint, when I said that we want to become the ubiquitous cloud, we are exploring some great groundbreaking technologies in cloud deployment. What people have started to realize is that AWS, Azure, and Google are really, really expensive cloud offerings. VMware, which is a virtualization platform, is now raising their prices. So they're now looking for smaller companies to provide software in order to scale cloud. And so we are going to take our blockchain journey and we are going to piggyback onto this new journey of the cloud and try to make this ubiquitous cloud for Kila as a cloud for blockchain. And finally, we hope that we see adoption across industries, where businesses start to realize how amazing blockchain is and what a great impact it can have on their value added services for their customers.
Definitely, and I think through this podcast, we are also trying and aiming to educate our listeners and to help them understand the value of blockchain and how it can help grow their business. So, if you try to wrap up a conversation, I think blockchain technology is only going to grow across different fields, be it business, finance, law, medicine, or even real estate. And on the other hand, I think governments will also work on establishing clearer regulations to address concerns about fraud or money laundering and investor protection. And I think this will boost more of the blockchain adoption. And as blockchain technology becomes a more mainstream, we'll have to create more awareness regarding blockchain solutions, like how probably we are doing through our podcast and trying to help listeners or everyone around the world understand the value of blockchain. I think organizations or even educational institutions, for that matter, will have to invest in resources or training programs to educate professionals about its use and its benefits as well. Well, thank you so much, Siddharth. It was a pleasure having you with us today. I think we discussed some of the important facets of blockchain, which even probably I wasn't aware of. So it was definitely an insightful one.
Great. It's been the pleasure's been all mine, Priya, and thank you for giving me this platform to share my vision and everything that Killa does.
Thank you. We are glad that you're part of this podcast today. Well, this is for our listeners. Stay tuned for upcoming podcast, and you can listen and view all our podcasts on Spotify and other leading publication platforms. Thank you so much.